You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility. We have a fault. Get to the chopper! Handy! It's a flesh wound. I am the father.
And lo, the beast looked upon the face of Beauty, and Beauty stayed his hand, and from that day forward, he was as one dead.
So you are ready for this voyage, Miss Darrow?
Sure.
Nervous?
Nervous? No. Should I be?
Imagine, if you will, an uncharted island, thought to exist only in myth.
Wall! There's a wall ahead!
That's where I'll shoot my picture.
It's deserted.
Of course it's deserted. The place is a ruin.
They've taken Anne! Find her! Behind the wall!
You saw something. What took her, Carl?
If you haven't found her in 24 hours, there'll be nothing left to find.
And we are back for the 24th episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. And this month we round out our 50 episodes. Super stoked. We had a great episode last week with King Kong Lives. Garth Gigan. And then we jump on to King Kong Lives with this episode. No, gosh. Where am I at? Godler's Guy. I'm still stuck on King Kong Lives. I want to go watch that again. Godler's Guy can.
You want to do another show on it.
Yeah, and then King Kong. The 2005 remake, but the next week we've got the awesome 50th episode with Star Wars, which we've got everybody jumping in on this one, and Matt and Tyler from the previous shows are coming on, so super stoked, great month. Of course, we've got Sludge here, and then you already heard my co-host, they're here. Right across from me is Mark, our brother from Texas.
And Ruben.
Sweet. So I'm just pumped on this one. Like we pre-record episodes, and so last night everybody got together and did the 50th episode with Star Wars, and it was an absolute blast. We had so much fun doing that episode. Cannot wait for you guys to hear that. Of course, that's going to come out next week, so we can make sure and hit it all numerically correct with 50 episodes. But not tonight. Tonight, man, we jump back to Kong, and it's really hard because I'm so badly want to. It's been online everywhere. Me and Ruben talked about it today. Mark, I shot some information to you. Some information has been leaked about Godzilla versus Kong, and I want to jump right into it. But in the back of my head, I know Pete Quint and Justin McLean's like, shut up, don't say anything, because they're wanting to go in spoiler free. But it's
man, that's gonna be tough for him to go in spoiler free.
I know, man. Like, but for me, the information that came out today, it's like it's got me more pumped. My mind going in a million other directions. Like, I can't wait.
I just had to tell him to calm down and breathe because he was just going out of his mind.
Dude, I was really, really, really. I mean, I know people are like, oh, it's
post. Well, without giving spoilers, I know that one of the things they talked about was mentioned at the end of King Kong. I mean, now you got me messing up. At the end of King of the Monsters.
It was, man.
At the end of King, it was mentioned. So I don't know if it was mentioned or if it was one of the.
It was read.
One of the headlines.
It was one of the headlines. One of the headlines. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, well, it's not exactly a spoiler, but I'll respect the wishes of Peter Quint and Justin and
yeah. So, but hey,
it's quiet. Yeah.
And I put it on. I put the spoiler on the Facebook page, but of course I gave a warning. Spoiler warning. Click at your own risk. That way, of course Pete's like, stop with the spoilers, and I'm like, come on, dude. I gave you a heads up just for you, just so you know. But I'm getting pretty pumped, man. I'm ready. I'm just going down through this countdown and doing all these Godzilla and Kong movies, getting pumped up for Godzilla vs. Kong. I can't wait. And I know that postpone it to November. Everyone's freaking out. It's like, oh, it sucks, and they're having to fix it. I'm holding on to the hope that it didn't suck, but they're wanting to make sure it's perfect because they really want this one to be the best.
I had read somewhere, and you probably read it too, because that they did a test screening.
Yes.
And then they took they took whatever input they got from that test screening and decided, okay, we're going to make some changes, and that's it. Now that doesn't make it good or bad. They just, if they're listening to whoever screened it, hopefully it was good quality people that know about the genre, then we're all right. It just depends on, they don't say who was present at that test screening,
Right, yeah.
It all depends on that, so.
For those who don't know a whole lot about test screenings, they're obviously pre-shown movies, and when they go see it, they don't have finished special effects. You know what I mean? So the people that go into these test screenings, they've done it before, and they know. You know what I mean? So you're getting pre-visual effects.
You're getting some unfinished raw footage in some places.
Oh yeah,
and
so,
probably missing special effects, things like that. Maybe even a scores missing. So
yeah, and a lot of them don't have the music's in place and things like that too. Yeah, I mean, I remember when talking to a guy who had went to the Godzilla King of the Monsters, one of the test screens for it. He was talking about the Antarctica fight with Godzilla and how Ghidorah wasn't even. He was just still blocks. You know what I mean? Pretty much just like 3D rendered blocks of gold, no scales, no details. So I mean, you get that when you go to these test screens, but they have them for a reason, and it's to make sure that they make the movie the best that it can be when it comes out. Now, of course, a lot of times that works great. Then sometimes it epically fails, a la The Predator, that Fox did with Shane Black, because he had his movie that was flawless, and then a lot of the Fox execs that went to the pre-screening were like, "Oh, this is terrible." Then they totally screwed that movie from that point. But most of the time,
and that's why I said
it works good.
It just depends on their
So
and I hope that's the case here, and I'm guessing it is. I'm guessing that it is.
Oh yeah, because I mean, a lot's riding on Godzilla vs. Kong, because a lot of people may not be aware. They're still like, oh well, they've only got the contracts for so many films and blah blah blah. No, Toho has made it known that they're completely open because of the success of the series so far. That if this one does good, they'll continue to let Legendary use Godzilla for future films, and that's what Legendary wants to happen, because Toho's talked about prepping up and having and the new they've got the Godzilla group, which is this new kind of circle room of excuse me, execs over at Toho that are working diligently on the future of Godzilla's franchise. New figure lines, now that we've got every Showa film, every Godzilla film ever released is finally available to all streaming channels that want it. And that's the first time that's ever happened outside of Japan alone, that you've had full access to every Godzilla film. Usually there'd be one or two missing, or couldn't. I mean, Toho's. We all know Toho is just very, very tight when it comes to what they allow for Godzilla. They're opening all that stuff up. So I mean, that first move they did. Now everybody can stream the Godzilla films anywhere they want. That was all because of Toho. Obviously, they've got this group's doing a lot of new stuff. They got a new project coming out called Project Genesis. I think is what it is for Godzilla, and it's relaunching new toy lines, new clothing lines. There's talk of an animated series coming out, and then of course with Toho, the next launch of the movies in 2020 or this year, because after this year they can start making live action films again per the contract with Legendary, the current stated one. They're going to be doing a shared universe of kaiju movies, all focused around Godzilla. So you're going to have like a Godzilla film, an Anguirus film, a Rodan film, and then a Destroy All Monsters or Avengers type film where you bring all these monsters together. But they've also talked about running the idea of running concurrent Japanese Godzilla films and American Godzilla films at the same time. And that's huge because Toho wouldn't say that if they weren't open for it. So,
it was one or the other, and if one was doing it, then the other could not.
Yep.
Basically, matter of fact, wasn't there a deal because of Shin Godzilla?
Shin Godzilla actually was not supposed to be made. They broke contract with that, but of course it's Toho. They weren't doing what they wanted to do.
That'll be interesting to see.
But it's exciting times for the Godzilla King Kong franchise, and I'm loving every minute of it. And I'm loving every minute of it. I'm like, man, this is the best. This is the
Does
best.
The Toho Godzilla look the same as the Legendary Godzilla?
No, he won't.
Yeah, see, that's what's going to be awkward in the two lines. You know, same character looking two different ways. I think. The culmination of just every Godzilla fan's probably greatest dream would be Legendary continuing on. And again, I'm bummed because I was hoping for March release for Godzilla vs. Kong, but I'm okay waiting for November to make sure it's the best film of the series because I want them to continue. But I would love if we continue on. What's that, Ruben?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's another reason I think they did that because they want to make sure. I think they want to give their best shot to getting this renewed.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
They definitely do.
So, they said we could do March and take a chance, and then if it's not successful, we don't get another shot at this. So they said, hey, let's just do this right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's part of the reasoning.
I hope so too, because I mean, it would be great to continue on getting the Legendaries Godzilla, Toho starting their Godzilla series back, and of course, every Godzilla's greatest dream is bringing those two Godzillas onto the same screen.
Wow.
At the same time.
Wow, that would be pretty spectacular.
Wouldn't it?
Oh,
I mean, we got Godzilla versus Kong, but what if we got Godzilla versus Godzilla and stapled who the true king really is? You know what I mean?
Now you're getting crazy.
Hey, look, they needed to hire me to do these films a long time ago, but it is what it is.
But the only problem would be Toho would say, ours got to win. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that.
That's exactly right.
That's why you hire me, because I'm totally going to make sure the Toho one, he used the first. So, but
that would be a disclaimer. Yeah, they just got to know there's brain trusts out here. They just need to know where to find them. To write these movies up and tell them to do it the right way.
I'm just going to start shipping them to somebody's desk. Like, here you go. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. So, all right. So, but anyways, on this episode, back to King Kong. So we were at the King Kong film. And this time, we jumped to the second remake by Peter Jackson that came out in December of 2005. This movie is in my opinion, and we'll go with this, probably the best Kong film. It's tight with Skull Island because Skull Island's good, but I'm thinking traditionally. I mean, with Kong is, I really put this one right up there with the original one. Not as good, because the original one's there, the original and the best for a reason, but it's so close there, and I feel like this one, and we'll get into it too here in a few moments, hit some monikers that the first one lacked in that I thought just helped make it better. Now, of course, there's things that weren't so good about this film that keeps it from being as good as the original one, but we'll jump into this one. So, I mean, it doesn't really need a synopsis. I mean, you've seen King Kong. It's the exact same storyline. Carl Denham, this time played by Jack Black, is trying to make a buck, trying to make a last film. His career's on end, and he finds Naomi Watts, about to say Fay Ray. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Fay's the first one. Naomi Watts, and hires her as an actress to make this movie. Goes to Skull Island to film this movie. And, of course, this time around, we got Adrian Brody as Jack Driscoll. And I thought he did really, really, really good. But, I mean, Naomi Watts, to me, is really who stole the show. And I'm not a big Naomi Watts fan, but her role as Ann Darrow, especially the way she screams in this movie, was absolutely awesome because that was one of the things in the 76 film with Jessica Lange. Her screams were great, but they weren't Fay Wray phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like Fay Wray, when she screamed, she sounded terrified. When Naomi Watts screams in this one, I think I even remember hearing that that's really what got her cast too, was her screams. She sounded terrified. She's phenomenal in this movie. Then of course you've got, like I said, Adrian Brody as Jack Driscoll. Had a really good cast, but I definitely want to talk about or bring up Andy Serkis, because we've talked about Andy Serkis in many episodes on the Monster Movie Stompdown and the main episodes. He's the man who played Kong. And not only did he play Kong, he also played Lumpy, the cook and surgeon and sailor. You know, I mean, he's kind of a jack of all trades. I loved his character's Lumpy. Actually, he's probably my favorite character in the movie is Lumpy. But Andy Serkis, of course, played Kong in this one. Phenomenal motion capture artist, and does such a great job with Gollum and the Caesar and the Planet of the Apes films. But his role as Kong was just absolutely spectacular. But so this came out in 2005. Long runtime, 187 minutes in this thing originally. Came out, and this was supposed to have a budget of like $100 and something million. 150. But they ended up pushing it over to $207 million. And at that time, this was the highest budgeted film ever from Universal. I mean, drastically. They'd never done over $200 million in a movie ever. Not many people still do that today. I mean, you get a few occasions, James Cameron and his Avatar films, and Marvel, with Avengers Endgame, you know what I mean? But most of the time, it's like you creep up to that 150 mark, you're really pushing the envelope. So for back in 2005, $207 million budget was huge, never heard of. But boy, it succeeded. It ended up breaking 550 million worldwide in 2005, so just really good. And of course, if you listen to some Star Wars fans, like me and Justin got into it with a couple today on Facebook, you got to include inflation. It's like, who knows what that would be, close to $1 billion or whatever for inflation. But so 550 million back then was huge. Great number. Very successful film. Brought in, 3 Academy Awards we were just talking about, Mark?
Yes. What was that again?
Best visual, we know.
Best editing, best mixing.
Yeah, those are 3.
The visual.
Best visuals, best film editing, and then best audio mixing.
Yep.
Just superb movie. Same storyline. They just really kind of got to, because of Jackson, this was his baby. King Kong is why he started making movies in the first place. He really got to go into great detail in this movie that a lot of the original one missed out on, which I thought was great. Biggest one is the inclusion of the spider pit scene that we didn't get in the original. Yeah. I love that he included that in this movie, because he not only did he include that in this movie, but if you get the 3-hour version, because it was missed 12 minutes more, they added 14 minutes, something
13,
like that.
Yep.
13 minutes.
Yeah, and then polished off some other special effects. Thanks for it. In the big deluxe edition, they included, not, of course, the spider pit scene was in this, but he went and actually did a black and white stop motion version of the original spider pit. Did you guys ever watch that?
I did not see it.
Did you see that, Ruben?
No, I did not.
Oh man, it's awesome. So he pretty much recreated the spider pit as if it was 1933. Used stop motion effects, the whole night, like it was almost like it was what it was supposed to be in that movie. It's just they never put it. Like he found a hidden reel of it or whatever. He included that on the deluxe edition DVD. And it was epic, man. I mean, and that's a true fan. If you're a true, because that didn't come from the budget.
Right.
Yeah, that came from his pocket, to go, yeah, we're going to put this scene in my movie, but I really want to make a stop motion version like it was in the original film again. That's a fan. That really is a true fan. Yeah. And that fandom from him and love of the character unbelievably shines through in this movie. Unbelievably shines through.
Definitely does. I was gonna say it. A true fan made this movie.
Oh yeah,
somebody who respected the original Kong, and I think he, even when he made the movie, he looked at the original and said, okay, this is what I think they would want it if they were alive today, and did it again. This is how they would do it, and he came pretty dang close, if you ask me. If he didn't hit it right on the head.
Oh, dude, he did. He definitely did.
Yeah.
And he kind of got a lot of what he wanted with this film. I mean, of course, with the Lord of the Rings films, I mean, he's top of the world when it comes to film directors at the time. And he was smart doing the Lord of the Rings prior to Kong, because then he could kind of, if he said if it wasn't for the Lord of the Rings films doing so well, I don't think he could have said, "Hey, Universal, I need another $50 million for my budget." And they've been, if it was prior Lord of the Rings, they're like, "You're not getting $100 million for this. What are you talking about?" But for him to be able to,
I read Universal was after him since the mid '90s.
They after that long for it?
They wanted him to do Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Ooh, well, yeah, I do remember them wanting him to do that. And that's something, man. They've always been. I mean, because we have Jackson, Del Toro, Zombie. We've talked about this before. Yeah. They've always been trying to get somebody to do Creature, and they can never get the. I mean, I don't know why they can't get the right person. They had 3 people that would have been phenomenal to do Creature from the Black Lagoon. Of course, there have been totally 3 different, Creature from the Black Lagoon movies, but yeah, they're after him for a while, and I think he did so good with this movie. I liked a lot in this movie. Of he did, where he felt like, okay, the original Kong was able to hit this part or this meaning of the film at an 8. I want to turn it up to an 11, in a lot of aspects of this film, especially the relationship between Anne and Kong, is by far the best part of this film. It was one of the best parts of the first film, but the acting between Andy Serkis as Kong and Naomi Watts as Ann Darrow is just, it steals I mean, the scenes with Adrian Brody and even Andy as Lumpy are great, but when I watch this, I find myself going, I need Kong and Ann back on screen, because they were absolutely he brought such a much bigger depth to Kong than we've ever seen before, and I'll dare say haven't seen since. Hopefully we'll see it in this new one, but even though we love Kong Skull Island, and he was a great character in that, they did not get the depth and level of Kong as Jackson and Serkis were able to get in this film.
It's two incarnations of Kong altogether. I'm saying the Kong in Skull Island was not. Well, first of all, he's a teenager or a kid.
Well, yeah, right? I mean, that's true.
Skull Island, so versus this Kong, who's actually the last one on the island. He's the last of his kind, as far as we know, anyway. Because he goes through that boneyard, and it's all his. From what I can tell, he's the last one. He's the last of a breed, and on Skull Island, that may be the same thing. He's the last one, but there's an emotion that comes through in that shows up really good on the screen. I mean, this film is I'll wait till I talk about what I like and what I didn't like. How about that?
Yeah, and we'll go, and we'll jump out here in just a minute. I mean, but I got to rant on Jackson again, man. Just continued because his fandom for this and love for the character. Well, if you go back to his movie Brain Dead, that whole zombie apocalypse or disease in Brain Dead came from, if you remember correctly in the movie, a place called Skull Island, and that was was a complete tribute to obviously King Kong.
Yeah. Matter of fact, the creature that started it in his movie, there's a cage down there in the venture for it, and it says "keep away" or whatever on there. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. So on the boat in this, it is down there, which is, man, it's so cool, because that just shows you what happens when a movie fan makes a movie versus just a director makes a movie, because he's he's good at what he does.
He's good at what he does, and here's a paycheck, and movies show up that way sometimes. He goes, "Yep, this is," and you said it before. This is just a paycheck movie. I just got to do it. You said it about actors, but it goes for directors, producers, movie studios. I mean, you can tell. You can really tell when somebody has a love for it versus not. And Peter Jackson had a love for this material. You could tell.
Oh, unbelievable love for it. So, all right. So let's go. I mean, it's kind of, you don't have to describe the story. We know it. I mean, it's the same exact story. But let's go through with the things we liked and didn't like. I think I'm up this time.
You're all right.
I'm up this time.
You're
up. Yep.
You're up.
Yes, I feel like it's been a minute. What likes so much about this movie? I mean, the one Kong, man. I mean, Andy Serkis's portrayal as Kong was phenomenal. He spent so much time around actual gorillas and watching silverbacks and things to really, because he's so dedicated to his art of motion capture. I mean, people go down in history with something that they're known for. You know, I mean, you've got Eiji Tsuburaya, who will forever be known as the father of Japanese special effects and the creator of Suitmation. You're going to have Ray Harryhausen, more so than Willis O'Brien, but Willis O'Brien included, as the father of stop motion animation. Andy Serkis will forever be the father of motion capture. You know, I mean, he really, you know, he didn't invent the technology, but he invented the art. You know, especially when it came to Gollum. We never seen anything like it. I mean, he's got his own school.
He invented the bar that other the other actors have to live up to. There was no bar until him.
Oh, dude! I mean, not only did he and not only did he invent that bar, he raised that bar every time he did it. You know what I mean? He set the bar with Gollum. He raised it with Kong. And what he set with Kong, then he came back and raised it again with Caesar and Planet of the Apes. I mean, he continuously raises that bar. He's phenomenal. And you got all these suit actors like TJ, the guy who plays Godzilla in the 2014 Godzilla film and Godzilla King of the Monsters, and again, Godzilla vs. Kong. He's a graduate from Andy's art school. You know, in this, you know, he went there because Andy does teach motion capture. And I mean, and Andy Serkis, of course, we know, I mean, he's gotten in the director's chair now. I mean, he did that Mowgli movie that came on Netflix. I mean, the he knows film. He's got an eye for it. Yeah. He's got the desire for it, the drive for it. And that's been, you could see that all the way back to the beginning of his career. But really here with Kong, I mean, he sticks out as probably my favorite thing of the film is Andy Serkis. Because he just kills it as Kong. I mean, every part of it. His emotions are just through the roof. They upped the ante on everything, and he just fell right in line. You know, I mean, you got the epic T-Rex battle. Well, Peter Jackson's like, well, how do we top that? 3 T-Rexes, you know, against Kong. And the way that Serkis handled that was unbelievable. I think one of my favorite moments was there after he killed the first two, and then Anne falls down that crevice, and she's in that little marsh area. As Kong's, is killing the second one, and that third T-Rex is about to come after her, and he lands over top of her and just stands there and waits for her to. He's just not saying anything, he doesn't talk, but not moving, just staring at the T-Rex, and they're squaring off. And then the moment she finally steps back behind him, and he lets that roar out, dude. That moment, I'm like, that rivals Godzilla scenes where I mean, that's as good today as the Godzilla King of the Monsters scene where Godzilla comes out after being nuked in the ocean. Right. You know what I mean? It's that epic level. Oh yeah. And it was just absolutely amazing. And I love every bit of it. And he puts so much emotion into it. You know, you go back to that T-Rex scene when he finally beats that third T-Rex, and then he kind of just starts to he does his awesome chest beat, which was just absolutely epic. You know, he won the fight, but then he just kind of took off. Well, he left her.
Yeah, he has a little attitude towards her.
He does, man.
She recognizes
exactly.
And goes running. And then when he grabs her, he just kind of slings her up there on her shoulder, like, just get up here.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much epicness with them. I mean, you go back to when he first captures her, and she escapes or whatever, and then he gets mad. And she starts doing those things, and he thinks is funny, like the little circus troupe dance deals. Yeah. And then when he goes to knock her over again, she smacks him. And says, "No, that's enough." And he throws that fit like a kid. And he's like shows dominance, and then that rock hits him on the head, and then you can tell he's super embarrassed, and then he just goes and storms off. Right. You know, like Andy's phenomenal because those are Andy's little twerks and things that he that are tweaks that he did in the film. I mean, I think probably I'll take it back. My favorite scene in the movie, hands down, is tied with the end of the film. Because we know Kong dies. Right. But after the T-Rex fight and Kong and Anne go to his cave, the lookout the mountain, and they're sitting there and he's still, kind of bloodied up and stuff. They see the sunset and she shows him the sign for beautiful. And and he doesn't do anything, but he looks at her and you can tell he's lit, he's paying attention. But then right there at the end of the movie, he does it back.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm like, dude, tears, man. Like, it's just when
Yeah.
Kong died in 33, you're like, oh, that's kind of sad. When he died in this movie, it's heart-wrenching because those two, and Jackson, of course, included because this is, his baby, made that relationship so much deeper. Before you didn't really feel, there was a relationship between Ann and Kong. In the 76 film, you kind of felt it a little bit, but not really that much. This one, it's like,
well,
it's
in
there.
the 76 film, let's be honest, in the 76 film, they made it a little racy. Let's go with that word.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
made it a little bit more, I'm trying to keep it clean. They made it more about sex or whatever, even though it's an 8. And in this one, it was not about that. Not once did you feel that come across. It was more like, I can't, it was funny, but
it was a deep
it's undescribable
bond.
that it was.
Yes.
It was none of that was there in the 76 that was missing, but it made it perfect.
Yeah, it was.
This is the way it's supposed to be. It was caring. It was caring that didn't have any strings attached. I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. And it's phenomenal. I mean, and there's so many other things that I love about the film. Special effects, just absolutely outstanding. I mean, my only complaint on the special effects probably honestly would have been the dinosaur stampede when they're running around the side of there's points where you can tell they're on green screen.
Right.
The people are, but it still look great. But I mean, it's evident. But I mean, other than that, I mean, the special effects are phenomenal. The addition of the spider scene, even though it's the death of Lumpy, spoiler alert, and Lumpy is my favorite human character in the movie. I love that scene though, man, and it was so grotesque. I mean, and it's terrifying because that's what the original was supposed to have been, was terrifying. Just super good movie. I mean, the acting was great in it. The characters were great. When I first saw the movie coming out, I really actually was kind of like on Adrian Brody because Adrian Brody was still kind of new, at the time, and I didn't hate the guy, but I mean, I wasn't really a big Adrian Brody fan.
Well, I think he was coming out of The Village.
Yeah.
Isn't that what he did prior to King Kong?
And
that got him pretty famous.
And in the door, And he didn't do bad in The Village. Now, I mean, I'm not a big fan of that movie by any means, but he did. Yeah, he wasn't that bad, But so him at first as Jack, I was just kind of like, it's kind of weird and odd. But he really took that role and owned it his own way, and did a phenomenal job at doing that. And then the additional characters, the kid who's reading the books that wants to save, he was new and he was great, but his relationship with the first mate on the ship was phenomenal. Was so good. Yeah. The characters were just absolutely amazing. I mean, I loved it. I love this. The soundtrack was absolutely gorgeous, and I love the little things he did. I mean, you had the long intro, the overture at the beginning again, with the original RKO, cityscape.
Yeah.
There was no reason for that, but he did it, and that was just absolutely amazing. The scenes in New York were just phenomenal. Actually, another one of my favorite scenes too. Again, what makes Kong and Ann so special in this movie is the frozen lake or pond in New York City, and they just start sliding around together. It's just, it really is. It's that. Again, it's not a sexual tension relationship. It's a friendship and a bond that that's just so tight and so close. Right. Almost like it's totally random, but like Rocky and Apollo. After they go through the first two movies, I mean, when he dies, or their relationship in the third film, or even the fourth film, that bond that's so deep that you get those moments at the end of Rocky 3, and they're in the gym by themselves.
Warehouse.
Who's going to win? Ding, ding,
Yeah.
tightness and that friendship, that's really what you have here. And it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Everything that Mark's heard me say before, I've always stated that the greatest love story ever put on the film was the original King Kong movie. Even though it didn't dive into it as deep enough, that story of Beauty and the Beast that they had there, to me, is the greatest one on film. And Jackson completely took that on a whole nother level and did it flawlessly, absolutely flawlessly. There was nothing that I didn't like about Ann and Kong throughout the whole film. Yeah. Things I didn't like, probably can sum it up in one word. A few special effects scene. Again, we talked about the dinosaurs running. Right. that could have been done a little bit better. But I mean, still looked great. It's just it was too obvious they were running green screen. But honestly, my biggest and only real complaint for this movie is going to be Jack Black. While I love Jack Black, this is probably my least favorite role of his of any film he's ever done, because I never could. I just couldn't get into him as Carl Denham. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, he just.
I concur.
Yeah, it was real out of place.
I'll repeat it, but it's that's.
Well, I think
one of my
as his characters in other movies, he up to this point he hadn't played a character like that. And
that's true.
I liked him. I thought that he was taking on a different type of character, a different type of role than all of his previous movies, and I thought he did a pretty decent job at it. I mean, if you have to have a villain in the movies per se, he didn't care about nobody but that film.
Oh yeah. Well, I think what really pushed it for me too was every time somebody would die,
he's going to give it to their family.
Yeah, we're going to donate the tickets to their wife and their kids.
Yes.
We're going to. Herb died for doing what he believed in, and we're going to finish this film. It's like, come on.
But I think I'm going to go ahead and state one of my complaints now because we're talking about it. But it's not really with Jack Black. It's with the character and how they wrote him. I didn't like how they wrote Carl Denham.
That may be what it is too.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like. It's not so much about Jack Black. He is given material and said, "We want you to be this guy." All right, and I get it, scumbag, this, that, and the other, but it was so choppy because sometimes he was so selfish, but then sometimes you get a glimpse of him actually caring,
of self-giving, of the
self-giving. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to say this, but the glimpses of the Carl Denham from Son of Kong, in comparison to King Kong, I can't stand that movie.
You just had to bring it up, didn't you?
I did, man. Because when you watch those two films, very different, same actor, but very different Carl Denham, and you're right, you had those little glimpses. In here, but I mean that would be my only real complaint. I mean, a little bit of the special effects thing. Again, I mean, it won an Academy Award for visual effects, so I mean they're phenomenal, and it's really only that one scene.
And I really think you like that film.
I do not like Son of Kong.
I do think you like that film, just like the Sony Godzilla.
Oh my gosh, man!
He compares. That stuff compares. You ever notice that? Yeah, you ever notice that?
This was brought up last night. They brought up Spider-Man 3 of all films, and we even talked about Godzilla 98 gets brought up. There it is.
There it is.
Oh man,
just have to get it out.
You can't base a great movie unless you have a bad movie to compare it to.
Oh, that's
okay.
What that is.
So you got to have those films.
Okay.
So, all right. But anyways, that's
your reason for having to have these films? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm a completionist. I'm a completionist.
Okay.
Is why they're in the collection.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Gotcha.
I mean, Son of Kong, case in point, I bought the pack that had it, Mighty Joe Young, and what was that? There was 3 films in that pack.
I haven't seen any in that pack. I don't watch Son of Kong.
I hadn't seen that pack. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have seen it. It's Mighty Joe Young, Son of Kong, and I can't remember that.
Yeah, but there's
King Kong?
No, it wasn't the original one, but it was something else that was in there. But I got rid of the pack because, I mean, I ended up getting another version of Mighty Joe Young and just didn't care because it was Son of Kong. I was like, I'll just put it on digitally and that's enough. But anyway, so that's the things I liked about this film. I mean, I could go really, really deep into the bond and the performances by Naomi Watts and Andy Serkis as Andero and Kong, because that is the stellar part of this movie. And it's so dang good that you almost could care less about anybody else that's on the screen. I mean, that's all you want to see is those two. And hats off to Naomi Watts, because again, I'm not a big Naomi Watts fan. I mean, she's done good movies that were intense. I mean, that I enjoyed, I guess. 21 Grams was actually a really good movie with Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn that she was in. But she was hands down my least favorite part of that film. And then you got movies like Mulholland Drive. I mean, she's a good actress, but this I think takes the cake because Andy does so good as Kong that most of the time, if you're going to see a monster film like King Kong or Godzilla or whatever, you want to see the monster. And Andy does so good. Andy's performance as King Kong in this film is probably, if not the best, giant monster performance on film. It is close as far as the actual person acting. You know what I mean? As the actual monster, exactly. It arguably could be the greatest performance of a giant monster ever seen, even to this day. Yeah. And that's, for most people, like, that's all I want to see. But Naomi did so well as Anne that I can't. There's times where it's like, oh man, this is awesome watching Kong, but then I always go, where's she at? She needs to be here with him.
Exactly.
I mean, you can't have one without the other.
Kong, exactly. I was about to say that you have Kong, but it's not the same if she's not in the scene.
Yeah. So I mean,
she's not involved somehow. Yeah.
Hats off to her to be an actress that I just don't really care for, to really make me go, I need you on film, because this movie's not going to be the same without you and Andy. That I could care less if you guys about this movie if you guys weren't there. Phenomenal job. So I can rant and rave about those two forever on this film. Obviously, what I like most about it, I loved so many other things: the spider spit scene, the inclusion of the underwater creature attack that was added in the extended version, which was really, really great, because in the theatrical version, that was one of the things I was kind of like, oh man, they don't have the brontosaurus attack, in the lake. Then that kind of bummed me out. And then I got the extended cut came out. I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay. So they just cut it out for time's sake, because he wanted to add in the spider scene, whatever. So I was okay with it. But when he added in, I was like, yeah, it's so good. And I love that Peter ran with it. I mean, you've got the dinosaurs like the T-Rex and Brontosauruses and the Ceratops, but then you had those cool other prehistoric creatures. I mean, the giant centipede, the giant centipedes, that fish creature that instead of a Brontosaurus, you got that fish snake eel-like creature. You've even got those little Komodo dragon-like lizards that go after Anne before the T-Rex show up. I like that he did that. I like that he kind of went above and beyond. Like, well, just normal dinosaurs is enough. Let's bring in more. I mean, there was 10 times more monsters in this one than the original one. Well, definitely more than the 76 remake. So, I mean, there's just so many good things that Peter did. And again, my only complaint on the film would be Jack Black. And again, I think, Ruben, you kind of did hit it on the nail. The character, the way he was written, it just, I didn't like. It's my least favorite portrayal of Carl Denham. I mean, I even liked the previous one better. So, but that's my likes and dislikes. Mark?
Well, you kind of hit everything.
Dude, I kind of like this movie.
I kind of like the way Peter Jackson did. He broke this film, I thought, up into 3 parts. He did. You've got Kong and Anne. They're going through what they're going through, but then you got the rest of everybody that's on the ship that comes on the island. That's completely different from.
Yeah. They all got their own story.
Yeah, they have their story going on, and they're fighting for their lives, and the spider pit, everything that's going on with them, and then it all comes together in New York.
Yeah,
and so he breaks it down in like 3 different sections, and I thought was really, really good. With the effects, special effects, everything that's going on with this movie at this time. Yeah, the green screen parts. Yeah, I agree with you. Like
I said, there wasn't many.
They kind of lacked there. Yeah, stuff that you could see. But I thought overall, he did a great job with making of the movie, because all the characters wasn't any character, even Jack Black's character I liked. I mean, there was none of the characters that I didn't like. So it kept me involved in the movie all the way through. And I agree with you with Kong and his portrayal of King Kong and his personality and his attitude and all that. But I just thought, thumbs up Peter Jackson creating the movie and keeping you in, because a lot of movies, action's over here, kind of pretty boring over here on this side, and you didn't have that. I didn't think. I thought all across every scene that
the pacing, was so good,
was phenomenal,
for especially a 3-hour film. I mean, that's hard to set your pacing right. Not many people can do that. I mean, mainly the likes of James Cameron. You look at Terminator 2, you're looking at a well over 2-hour film right there. Back in the early 90s, nobody's going to sit around for that long. Getting the pacing right is you're correct, and he did. The pacing on this film, he nailed it.
So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. There, and I really enjoyed it. It's, to me, up to 2005, it was the best Kong movie. And so you couldn't beat it. It's just fantastic. fantastic.
Ruben, what about you, man?
Man, there was just so much I liked about this movie. Disclaimer, though, I still, for sentimental reasons, 76 is my favorite Kong, but this is the best Kong movie. Yeah, the best one made, in my opinion. A lot of it has to do with technology that was available to Peter Jackson that wasn't available in 76 or in 33.
Right.
You know, but the fact that Peter Jackson took the 33 model and put it in that time period rather than what 76 did and made it modern, I like that better than 76. I like that a lot better.
Oh, yeah, and he did. And sorry, real quick,
yeah.
Ruben, I just want to add it out.
Yeah.
The design of New York, I mean, for that time period, you're right. I forgot to mention that. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
He nailed 1930s New York to a T.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. You were talking about different scenes. As a matter of fact, RJ was sitting here watching with me over the weekend before he left, and I said, just look at that. Look at New York. I said, none of that is real. That's all generated. That's all computer generated. I said, I don't know if they, how they did it, or maybe some of the buildings are real. I said, but to me, look at it. I said, there's no way they can just shoot that live. I said, look at that.
Yeah,
it's spectacular. Visually, the only word for this movie is beautiful.
Yeah.
Visually beautiful. It's just a beautiful film from beginning to end. From the beginnings, it starts in New York, from when they're out at sea, even in the boat, that grungy old boat.
Man, it looks good.
They made it,
He had to put the perfect rust here, where it needed to be. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Rust where it needed, like you said, rust and squeaks, and you just had the attention to detail in this movie is incredible. I'm like, I sat in awe after it's been a while since I've seen it, because RJ went through that phase where he watched it all the time. Then we hadn't watched it for a while. Then this came up. It just happened to be on TV again, so it was on TV. So we started watching it, and I'm like, man, down to the scars on King Kong.
Oh
old
yeah.
The old battle scars he had from all these scars.
Even the chipped teeth. He had a couple teeth that were chipped.
Yeah, exactly. His teeth were chipped, and he had the scars, and the way that he was portrayed was so perfect, because you could tell that it was studied and it was perfected, and there's no way. And I know there's no such thing as a giant gorilla, but if there was, he nailed it right on the head. All the movements, the tantrum, that's all. That's all ape. That's how apes act. That's how a gorilla acts. Even if you guys remember the Planet of the Apes from Tim Burton one.
Oh, that was I don't know if you remember early. That was like 2001.
Yeah, 2001, where he gets frustrated and he just goes crazy. This chimpanzee goes crazy, starts throwing stuff off, because that's what they do. They throw tantrums like that.
Yep.
So when it happened in Kong, I thought, man, he even got that right. He got frustrated because he wasn't getting what he wanted, and he threw a tantrum, and then that rock falls on his head, and then, like you said, you could see that he was like, oh man, now what? I just made a fool of myself in front I just made a fool of myself. I just made a fool of myself in front of this girl, and now I look like an idiot, and then he wanders off. But I think he wanders off just to differ from I think he wanders off because he smells those guys coming.
Oh yeah,
around and then he takes off. But everything about that, the only thing I didn't like about it is the portrayal, the characters of Denham, and I didn't like the way they portrayed the Baxter guy, Bruce Baxter. I thought he was. Man, I know they had to add another actor.
Kyle Chandler.
I didn't like it.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm fine with Kyle Chandler. I think he's cool, but again, he was one of those. They wrote him the same way. So some of the writing is the problem I have with the way they wrote Jack Black was too choppy, where he was selfish, but then you could tell that once in a while he showed a glimpse. Same with him. He was like, oh, I'm an actor and I'm just here for a paycheck. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
But then when they're down there in the pit, here comes the hero with the machine gun.
Yeah, he does finally turn around which was pretty cool.
Yeah, he comes back down. I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. No. And then all of a sudden, there he is. I was like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
He didn't care. He didn't care 20 minutes ago. Whatever
That was nice to have a fresh character, though. I thought he was interesting for a new, all new character for the movie.
Yeah, no, it's all new character. I just didn't. It's the same thing. I didn't like the way he was written.
I agree with you there.
I think the character could have gone with, okay, you want to make him a selfish actor, then make him a selfish actor, man. Just dive in and make him a butthead if that's what you want.
Right.
Which they did 90% of the time, but then all of a sudden he became a hero. And then he went right back, when he got back to New York, he went back to being, I'm a hero. He got all the credit for capturing Kong and all that. So that's the only two things I didn't like. As far as the green screen stuff, that didn't bother me enough for me to even,
and it's even kind of hard to say, because I mean, it's even when I when I was talking about the green screen stuff on the dinosaur stampede. I mean, even though you can tell it's the green screen, in some parts, it still looks so good that it's like,
I think
you can't
too,
not like
the
it.
effects are so good. The rest of the effects are so good that sticks out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in other words,
exactly.
it raises the bar, and then it makes you notice something like that where you might not. You might let that slide on another. So that's the only part I didn't like. The best part I liked about it is the effects. My favorite, of course, I love the T-Rex fight. That was just
the
best.
Epic on so
and it's
many
hard
levels.
to choose. I love that. The T-Rex fight, if you want to be official, they gave them their own names in the movie rather than make them T-Rex. And so, of course, I love that. But what really took me aback is when they went to New York. Like you were talking about the sunrise when he's on top of the Empire State Building. That sunrise, and that was just spectacular. I'm like, man, it doesn't get any better than that.
Nope.
The skyline sitting on the Empire State Building. Then you got Kong sitting up there, and he was flawless. And then then you have climbing ladders. I'd never be able to climb up that high. She was just fearless climbing up there, and so I said, I thought about it, and I said, you know what? Even though the action sequences are awesome and I love them, that's the best part of the movie right there.
Oh, dude, it is. It so is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heart pounding. I mean, really just grabs you in the feel goods, man. It's just like, dude, it's epic.
Exactly. You're just like, man, you're in awe. You're sitting there with your mouth open, like, man, look at that. And of course, I love the relationship between Kong and Andaro. I thought they did it right this time.
Yeah.
I thought they even did it. They did. I mean, it's up there with 33. In fact, I like the way they portrayed this one. Even though 33 is the original and it's the original love story, you could see that Kong cared for her, but not in a way that he would protect her, and he gave his life. I mean, he put her down and she pushed her out of the way because those planes are coming.
Yep.
And he was going to protect her, and it had nothing to do with anything else other than I know he was an ape, and it was kind of like she was his possession or whatever you want to say, but it went so much deeper than that.
It was that bond, man.
Because the way he looks at her, we talked about in the last Kong, 2 Kongs ago, how Rick Baker's eyes came through in that Kong suit.
Yeah.
This is the same thing. I mean, the way the facial expressions and everything, you can tell that he just, she was more than just a possession to him. He didn't eat her, for one thing. Like, he just sort of looked like the rest of the native girl.
And that hats off again goes to Andy, man. I mean, like it
Andy,
really,
exactly.
It bothers me, and has for years, that he's never been able. And I don't know why the Academy won't change this, but he's never been able to be up for an Oscar or an Academy Award for Gollum or Kong or especially Caesar.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that's him, and that's his face. He's got 32 different dots on his face to make those muscle movements. Those are his eyes. I mean, that's him.
He's acting.
Yeah, he's acting.
It's his acting.
And he did phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
In this.
Every time out, he seems like it's phenomenal. It's just more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he even does such a good job with his human characters. Again, Lumpy.
Yeah.
Man, Lumpy was great in this movie. Loved him.
Yeah.
He was so good.
That was so good. I'm like, man, I can't believe how great he played that part, Even when he's doing that and he doesn't have dots on his face, he's
so
facial
good.
expressions he makes when he's making that what was, I don't even forgot what it was, lamb brains and almond sauce.
Yeah, yeah.
Lamb brains and almond sauce.
When
he gives it to him and he makes that face.
When they're walking on the island and he keeps swatting those giant mosquitoes, and they're like, he starts shooting at him. I loved him. He was so good, so good. And
also, and not only that, but when his I guess his helper, the Asian guy gets killed.
Yes.
Oh my God!
Oh man,
emotions in that.
He does. I'm trying to remember that character's name was.
He did so good. So this movie is just about perfect, if you ask me.
It really is. I mean, it really is.
It is.
I mean, the only thing why it couldn't be better than the first one is only because, well, it's not the original, and that's you get your own staple.
Exactly. That's the only thing holding me back from telling. It's the original, and there's no way you can match that because, technically, this remake took the original and it ran with it. But the source material is the original.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to give the source material the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
Because there would be no Kong 2005 without that source material. It just wouldn't be. So that's the only thing holding me back is, hey, wait a minute, the source material, they'd have nothing without the 33 Kong.
Right.
And even the 33 Kong with the cutscene that got lost got put into this movie, which is awesome. I mean, wow. That's lost footage that they could never find, and and then it showed up, I think, and so somebody got to see it. But it's so cool that he did that, and I'm happy they gave it to Peter Jackson to do, because I don't think anybody else could have done it any better than him.
Nope, I completely agree. Nobody could have done this any better than Jackson. And it shows. It definitely shows on film.
Yeah.
Even source and I totally forgot about this earlier when you were talking about Jackson. His love for this movie. Do you guys know he's in the film?
No.
Really? No, I did not know that.
Oh man! So go back and watch it at the end of the movie when the airplanes are flying. The airplane that I guess technically kills Kong, the pilot and the gunner in that plane, if you look, is actually Peter Jackson and Rick Baker.
Really?
Yes, they're both in that plane.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
No. Yeah. I'll have to check that.
Now that is fandom too, because he's like, I gotta be in a Kong film, and then we gotta bring Kong. Why not let Kong kill Kong? Yeah, but that's actually the plane that shoots him and does the final shot or whatever kills him. That's Peter Jackson. Yeah. And I can't remember. Wow. I think Jackson's the pilot and Baker's the gunner. They're in there, but even then, I mean, like you've got. I'm trying to remember. There's another character. I think like one of Peter's kids is in the movie, like one of the New York extras. I mean, he'd put a lot in this film, and it really shows. And then it's got to be awesome to be Kyle Chandler, because you face King Kong and then you face Godzilla. I mean, what other person can say that?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So
well, and I think one thing we didn't mention, or I forgot to mention that the Islanders. They are the scariest Islanders.
That's something else I love about the film, because when you go back and look at the first two, I mean, those Islanders, they're terrifying.
Oh yeah, they are.
Absolutely terrifying. I mean, you go with the first two films, or the original and the remake, you get what's going on. I mean, they're wanting to, they do sacrifices to Kong, but they never really seem scary enough to be those type of people.
These guys were brutal.
Oh yeah.
They used the one, they killed the one guy with the bone.
Oh yeah, the little like club or something. Yeah,
club, yes,
they were
just phenomenal. Though.
Man, the Islanders that was a whole nother level. That's what I'm like. Yeah, I can see why they're sacrificing her.
I would have turned around and went back to the boat when the little girl came out there at the very beginning. I was like, oh my god,
I'm out of here. That's it. I'm out.
I saw her. I'm like, wait, I think I saw you come out of a TV once.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't want no part of this.
I think Ann or somebody actually does say, "Let's go back."
Let's
go back.
Out of here. Yeah.
we need to leave. Man, and they're so good. And but bringing them up too, that's probably one of my other complaints, because that was one of the only times where I don't know if it was just got overlooked or what, but when Carl Denham's about to be killed, when Jack Black's character is about to be killed by what seems to be one of the leader of the Klansmen or whatever, those Islanders, and the captain shoots him. There's nothing. He shoots against falls, and you get a long shot of him falling. And no bullet hole. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. And that was one of the few things where I'm like, yeah. Didn't he just get shot?
I kept trying to look. You couldn't see anything in his chest. I'm thinking, well, maybe he shot him in the head because I really thought that. I thought the same thing. And nothing. Yeah. Nothing.
If it happened quick, bam, boom, he fell. I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah.
But like he falls for like 30 seconds. It's like, and it's all on him and nothing else. It's like, wait a minute, I got time to analyze this.
And I was trying to look at the island because they got the wall built. That keeps Kong on the inside of the island.
Yeah.
And they pretty much lived on nothing. They're just right there in them rocks, and that was it. And they're pretty ferocious looking people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that as little as what they lived on there and how rugged and that spaces that they live really helped define the type of characters they were.
Yeah.
How terrifying and just brutal because they lived in the brutal environment that they had no other choice. The Islanders were phenomenal in this one. Phenomenal. Ruben, you got anything else you want to add?
No, man. I think you guys covered whatever I missed. It's like I can't get over how great this film is.
Man,
it's really, really good.
It's so good. For me, the original is the original, but this is. Other than the original, this is the best Kong film that's come out. It's just now again we got Kong Skull Island coming out. The next Kong film we're going to be doing. That's a phenomenal film for so many other different reasons, though. Because they totally ditched the Beauty and the Beast storyline. It's a whole other animal there. But this one definitely. Kind of like Godzilla 1985, man, that's the best Godzilla film for me besides the original because you got the original. Right. Same thing with Kong here. This is the best Kong film besides the original because it's the original. And we can't stress to you guys enough. If anybody listening has not seen this film, even if you're not a giant monster movie fan, you need to watch this movie because it's absolutely beautiful. It is just a phenomenal movie, start to finish, and it's very easy to watch all 3 hours of it because you never. You talked about the pacing earlier.
It does fly by.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's funny. Like I'm going to mention it again. We're sitting here watching it, and they get to New York. And RG says, "Man, it's almost over." I said, "No, it's not. We still got another 45 minutes."
We still got.
He goes, we got
some.
Right. Said,
we got some time here.
I said, "There's a long way to go." I said, "You think it's over because they capture him." And he goes, "Wow, they're already going to New York. The movie's almost over." And I said, "No, think about it. We still got another 45 minutes to an hour."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh yeah." So this movie's 3 hours long, and that wasn't even the extended version.
Right.
It ran 3 hours by itself without the extended version.
Yeah, just absolutely phenomenal. So good.
And you don't. That 3 hours flies by. You're sitting there, and the 3 hours flies by because Mark mentioned it and you mentioned it. The story just moves.
Yeah,
and keeps you interested. You just want to know what's going to come next. And I didn't talk too much about Adrian Brody's character because even him and Darryl's relationship, you kind of want to see where that's going to go. There's a little comedic. Yeah. There's even a little comedy there when they first meet, and it's pretty cool. And like you were talking about that kid who who's on the ship, and,
right?
That's kind of cool to see the relationship between him and Hayes that they have. And Hayes tells the backstory to everybody about. He tells somebody the backstory on him, how he found them down there, and even the captain, and how he's an animal. He goes out to capture live animals.
Right.
Even that was pretty cool. So there's not much about this movie that would bore you, even if you're not a big, huge a monster movie fan. I think you'd like this movie because it's got it all.
It really
everything
does.
It does.
So, and that's why this movie garnered one of the higher monster movie stomps or stomp ratings from us. I mean, we gave this and it was unanimous when before we started recording. This got 4 out of 5 stomps. I mean, that's about as near perfect as you're going to get from us for a stomp rating. And it's really
for a remake.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially for a remake. Yeah.
And for a remake.
I mean,
and for a remake.
I can't.
Have we been higher than 4? I think this may be the highest we've gave.
4 may be the highest number.
Yeah.
Ruben, I don't think we've been over 4, have we?
No, I mean it's been. If it is, I can't remember.
If it is, it would probably be the original Godzilla.
Yeah,
maybe the original Godzilla.
I think we gave the original Godzilla 5, and we might and Kong. The original Kong got a 5, I believe.
Yeah. So yes, I mean 4 is high, and for a reason. And you're right. For a remake, I can't think off the top of my head of a remake that's this good.
Right.
Not just Godzilla, Kong. I mean any remake that I can think of in any genre.
No.
That I'm like, man, that's stellar. It's just it's hard to do.
No. It's very rare.
The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing is probably the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's one that might come close.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
Pretty rare that something like that happens. But yeah, I mean, big 4 out of 5 stomps from us, guys, and for so many reasons. And what little flaws this movie has, they are minute enough that they really ultimately doesn't matter. Because I mean, again, like I talked about this, the green screen with the dinosaur stampede. I ultimately don't care because I'm gonna continue to watch it because it's so good. You know, Jack Black's character writing. Still gonna watch it because he's still great and he's got his shining moments. It's those little tiny things.
If you have not seen it, you will not be disappointed.
Not at all. It's guaranteed 3 hours of your day well spent.
Oh yes,
watching this movie. So, anything else you guys want to add this one?
I am good.
Ruben,
no, I'm good.
Awesome,
I'm
man.
Perfect.
So yeah, again, guys, check this one out. I'm sure most of you have already seen it and just like to listen to us rant about it and get our opinions. And then I love getting especially from like Justin and Pete, man. I mean, as soon as I know when they finish an episode, because then I instantly start getting messages and they'll bring up their little opinions on it. And I love that. It's one of my favorite parts. That's why I'd love to get those listening, for you guys listening, man, get on the Facebook page and comment on these episodes and just let us know what you think, because dude, we'll message you back. We love doing it. I mean, we're nerds and we love getting into this stuff and talking about it, and that's why we do what we do. I mean, there could be 2 people that listen to our show and we'd still do this because we just love just talking about this stuff.
Exactly.
So communicate with us, man. Like I said, Justin and Pete do a great job, and I love that the banter and the relationships built there, and love to hear from every one of you all listening to this episode. Just comment on the Facebook
and not
page.
only that, but it helps us. At least it would help me to know where I can improve. As far as where I do my show and how we talk. Like, hey, well, hey, and I would like to know how we're doing. And it's great to see that some of the comments. Something, and I've been in on a couple of those conversations, mostly with Star Wars.
Yeah,
but it's great, man. And it's a labor of love.
It really is. It really
is.
It's
a labor of love. It is not. There's not a. It's one of these things that man, it doesn't even seem like it's not a chore. It's like getting together with your buddies and talking.
Yep,
it's what it is, man, and it's perfect. I love it. I love doing this.
Just hanging out.
Hanging out. And it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
Giving each other the business about different things. I mean, hey, that's the best right there.
Yep. Memories made is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even the mistakes, like buying Godzilla 98 poster book and never, hearing about it constantly. I mean, that unfortunately happened.
He brought it up on his own that time.
I had to staple that in episode.
Well, hey, and my love for Revenge of the Sith.
That's true.
And your
hatred.
And I believe, isn't it King Kong Lives is special?
I was about to say that.
King Kong Lives. Right. That's special.
Way better example, Mark, than the Revenge of the Sith.
And I was kind of shocked when he said something about the 76 King Kong,
I know.
His favorite. And I thought, whoa,
we may have to message Cindy and be like,
that's a memory. That's just a memory that I will never. That film holds a very special place in my heart. I always will.
Let's backtrack there, so in case Cindy listens.
As well as King Kong lives.
That's awesome. And so that, I mean, another great. I loved it. I love this movie. Love doing these episodes for it. And of course, when we come back next month with, for what some people may see as probably the lowest point, one of the lowest points in Godzilla's lifetime, but then there's tons who think it's one of the higher points. This movie is a love or hate film. We come back with the next month, the next episode with Godzilla versus Megalon. A lot of history for this film. We're going to bring you guys a lot of information maybe you don't know about this movie. It's a blast. I'm one of the ones that's kind of like, it's probably the cheesiest Godzilla film besides Godzilla's Revenge, but definitely not the worst because it's a lot of fun. Right. It's very much a love or hate relationship for this one. And then after that, we'll catch up to the final Kong film before
we go to Skull Island.
Go to Skull Island. And that's going to be absolutely epic. And then we actually got it today, pretty much kind of got our first request outside of the, after Kong Skull Island, we're going to kind of go back and forth. We've talked about continuing the 2 episodes, going from Godzilla film to another monster film. And we've got a request, and we will definitely honor that film. So after Kong Skull Island, we'll go to Godzilla versus Megagodzilla that time. But then our first non-giant monster movie has been requested since Alien. It's going to be the make sure I get this right, 86, Peter Weller, Amanda, can't remember her last name, from The Flash.
I don't know where you're going.
Oh man! Well, okay. And
are you going to RoboCop here?
No. That'd be great. I'll do it's monsters, but I'll still do RoboCop. No, we're going to go deep underwater with Leviathan.
Ooh, yes. Good movie.
Great movie. Good movie. So Richard Crenna was in that one. Yep. Daniel Stern, and Amanda Pays. That's her name. Amanda Pays. She was in the Flash TV series with John Wesley Shipp. Definitely was a teen heartthrob for me, man. When I watched her in this movie, I was like, love this girl. She's gorgeous and awesome, and she survives a monster. But that's our first request was Leviathan, and came from Justin McLean.
Well, actually, I haven't seen that one in a long time.
Man,
let's dig into that one.
I love that movie.
But you said, I mean, when you say Peter Weller, the first thing that comes to my mind, I don't care. Peter Weller, RoboCop.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, it's me. It's always RoboCop, but sometimes it's not even Leviathan with Peter Weller. Sometimes I go to of Unknown Origin. If you got, I know you've seen that one, Mark.
Yeah,
you've seen that one?
And that's what I thought. Well, maybe he's going there because I know Weller did that one, and I'm like, well,
I love that. His descent into madness, fighting that rat, is just epic. I mean, that's something I'll never forget as a kid. I love that movie. Weller's super great. Oh, it even got Screamers with Weller. Y'all remember Screamers?
Oh yeah, remember it too.
Yeah. Man, great actor. I'm glad. Yeah, they are talking about bringing him back to be RoboCop for the new one. I heard about that. I really hope they do because he was great in the Star Trek films, the new Star Trek movies. I loved him in those. So Peter Weller all the way. But so again, guys, thank you guys so much. Join us again next month. We will tackle the next Godzilla film of Godzilla vs. Gigan, and then go back to Skull Island with one of hands down the most action-packed Kong film ever. Yes. And of course, you got Samuel L. Jackson, and he makes any movie better. Again, 4 stomps on this one. If you haven't seen this version of King Kong, do yourself a favor. Go rent it. Go somewhere, Amazon, or I don't know if it's on Netflix or whatever, or go to just go to Walmart and buy it. I mean, it's going to be you'll love it. You'll love it. It's absolutely amazing. But again, thank you guys. This is Sludge
and Mark
and Ruben.
Y'all have a good night.